Welcome and thank you for joining us on this exciting day. I am Commissioner Alan Linton II of the Chicago Advisory Redistricting Commission. I am one of the 13 commissioners independently chosen by an autonomous selection committee to draw a new ward map for Chicago by Chicagoans who are focused on the needs of the people of Chicago. We are here today to unveil a first draft of the People's Map. First, let me explain how we prepared for this challenge. Once we were chosen, the Commission completed 17 hours of training in 2 weeks of intensive sessions provided by experts. Topics covered included Chicago remap and council history, legal, constitutional, and state requirements, independent commission work and best practices, and training in the use of mapping software. We created a charter and adopted mapping criteria. The draft People's Map was created in multiple night and weekend sessions after we listened to testimony from people in communities throughout Chicago. People came to testify at 24 open hearings held this summer virtually and in every region of the city. People from throughout the city spoke to us about their communities and their needs. They submitted maps through our online portal on our website, chicagoswards.org. They submitted maps of their communities of interest using the representable website tool, and we reviewed those as well. This historic effort to model open and transparent, people-focused redistricting never has been attempted before here, and we want all of Chicago to see the first results of our work together. Every public hearing and every meeting of the Commission, all of our work has been done publicly, live streamed, available on Facebook, and with language translation services available. We have been diligent and intentional about our efforts to be fully transparent about creating a new ward map. Now, let me turn it over to my colleague, Debbie Liu.
Hello, I am Commissioner Debbie Liu. As Commissioner Linton just said, this is our first draft. The Commission readily acknowledges that not every Chicagoan has provided input at one of the 24 meetings so far. That is why we are planning to host more hearings over the next few weeks to gather feedback on this draft. The Commission invites the people of Chicago to review this map at this time. We want to hear from more Chicagoans about what edits, revisions, and other changes they would like to see reflected in the People's Map. This process is entirely about reflecting what the people of Chicago want for their map, which may give them a stronger voice in their city and their representation in city government. They live on our blocks, in our neighborhoods, in our communities, and they know what is best and what works for them. This is about true people power. We are calling on the people of Chicago to tell us what their commission or their communities and neighborhoods all about. We all want and deserve a say in how our communities look, how they are organized, how they are represented. We want a better city for ourselves, our neighbors, and our families. This is a historic opportunity to create the foundation for a better Chicago. So we need the people, you, to demonstrate this power and tell us, this commission, what your community should look like, how you define them, who are the people in your communities. Should one community be divided into a number of wards, 5 wards, 4 wards? Should one community have 10 schools while another have 2? Should business districts be kept together? What compromises should the city make? What ward boundaries would you help to get better feedback and response from city services like pothole repair or graffiti removal or even streetlight replacement? Chicago, this is your opportunity to define your ward for the next 10 years. We are continuing this work to create the best People's Map possible. And we want to hear from Chicagoans about their communities. Testifying is actually very easy. And you don't need to be a mapping expert to contribute. We will have hearings on Tuesday night and Thursday night, the 20th and the 24th, to collect and consider more of your feedback and suggested revisions. The full schedule and map can be found on www.chicagoswards.org. Please help us put power back in the hands of Chicagoans. We want all of us to have more of a voice, more choices, and freedom to create a better ward map that serves the people. Now I'll turn it over to Commissioner Strode.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Liu. So as we created this first draft of the People's Map, we committed to keeping communities together and to giving people in Chicago, especially communities of color, their ability to elect whomever they want to represent them. This draft includes 12 Latino citizen voting age population majority wards and 16 voting age Black majority wards, and keeps the Chinatown community whole without creating districts that look like lobsters or spaghetti. We committed to honoring the testimony and community of interest that received, correction, 13 Latino voting age majority populations wards, but we committed to honoring the testimony and community of interest maps we received as much as possible. We worked over many long nights and weekends to create a People's Map that kept compact neighborhoods together as much as possible. I was there for those long nights and weekends. And that kept the neighborhoods together as much as we could empower the people of Chicago. So now we want to take in more input and feedback from people all over Chicago so we can improve the People's Map. It's our hope that we can make up the People's Map even stronger. We can win the support from people throughout the city, and we can ask them to ask their alders to support the People's Map in the city council. So if 10 alders ultimately support the People's Map, then it could trigger an election so the people of Chicago have the opportunity to vote for the ward map they want in the next 10 years. So with that, I want to turn things over to my colleague, Gracie Covarrubias.
Thank you, Commissioner Strode. So what's next? What are we doing now? I'm excited to talk about next steps. Again, as Commissioner Liu said, it is time to collect responses and feedback to this first draft. We will host more hearings over the next 2 weeks and then consider incorporating that feedback into revisions to the People's Map. We reiterate that this is the first draft to remind the people of Chicago that now is the time to study the map and submit revisions. This can be done in one of two ways. One, in person or virtually at our hearings, or two, by submitting comments or suggested revisions using the portal on the chicagoswards.org website. Once we have collected and considered the people's suggestions, we intend to present a second draft and make that available for final review. Once that is done, we expect to vote to approve a final People's Map, and then we invite Chicagoans to join us in asking members of the City Council to support the People's Map. Democracy works best when an open and inclusive process is embraced that recognizes people, not just positions of power, and responds to the people's will. The Chicago Advisory Redistricting Commission has stayed true to those ideals, and the People's Map will be the result of that process. Now, without further ado, here is the first draft of the People's Map. Commissioner Linton will share this draft for you all to be able to see. Information about the map, our hearings, all of the work and testimony, as well as recordings of all of the hearings and the meetings of the Chicago Advisory Redistricting Commission can be found at chicagoswards.org. We'll give you a few minutes to look at the map, and I'll turn it over now to the Chicago Project Manager, Chandra Van Dyke, who will help direct us to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thanks, Gracie. We can give everyone time to review the map, and people can raise hands and we'll call on questions in order they are received. I just wanted to encourage the media that we do welcome your questions now. And if you have a question, you can raise your hand. Hi, AD, we'll call on you first.
Hey, everybody, thanks for taking the time. Could you walk us through maybe some of the wards that saw some of the largest changes and what this means for minority representation potential on council?
Thank you. I'll call on Commissioner Strode to see if maybe he can take that one.
So that's a difficult question to parse. So I will say that as we were going through this process of redrawing maps, there were several wards that saw tremendous change in terms of the compactness and the contiguity. We strive to kind of put that at the forefront of our process as a sort of legal responsibility. But we were also in consideration of looking at, you know, how we can design a map that is very equitable to maintaining the representation of these wards, and also just acknowledging the expansion of populations in terms of shifting representation. So it's difficult to kind of highlight specific wards and give you guidance on the changes to those different wards because basically many of the wards had already been gerrymandered to a great degree, and we were trying to reshape them to maintain communities of interest, to maintain you know, the electoral power of within those communities. And so there are lots of changes that you will see if you are comparing this to the existing map. But I will say that as a part of our process, and we published our redistricting principles on the chicagoswards.org, so I would certainly, you know, put you in the direction of those redistricting principles. But we can certainly also point to Inglewood, which had 6 alders. And in that example, because we were focusing on the compactness and the contiguity of that neighborhood, of that community, we were able to bring much of Inglewood into a single ward. And so those are examples of things we were able to do by foregrounding in this process: compactness, contiguity, communities of interest, and ensuring that we adhere to principles of equity in this mapping process. Thank you.
Did you find that you got a lot of engagement from folks who actually wanted to go through this process? I would imagine that it's hard to get people excited about redistricting and to get people to show up.
I'm not sure if that should go with Strode as well, or if there's another commissioner that would like to step up and add to what Strode has already given.
I'm happy to field that one as well, just as a follow-up. Engagement has continued to be, you know, one of the things that we focused on greatly. As part of our training, the focus in terms of how we do engagement is not necessarily around immediately bringing people into the ward and the population and the specifics, but in this conversation around what are the communities of interest that matter most to you. When you think about your community, when you think about your neighborhood, when you think about the geographic, social, and political, you know, contiguity of your community, what does that look like? What are the borders? What are the boundaries? And that early engagement using that language allowed us to get people to understand what we were after. We're after trying to keep those communities together, in addition to trying to keep that geographic contiguity and shape. And so it's been certainly, you know, there's been a lot of a challenge in terms of engaging the South Side, and we've had some recent South Side hearings that have been fantastic in terms of being able to bring in the voice of those communities. But you know, it's you know, we really tried to kind of foreground engagement as a part of our process, because it's that feedback which continues that will ensure that we're able to present the best map and get the best possible map out to the communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Strode.
I would add that we did have a couple of in-person hearings. There were a couple of them that were really well attended, including the one in Chinatown. So there has been a lot of testimony that we received, not just in person, but also virtually, and recognizing that COVID has changed what it means for in-person engagement. So we have been actively seeking out more testimony. So we will continue to do that as we move into the second phase, where people are actually responding to a visual rather than providing testimony on what they believe their community should be.
I'd also like to add something. When it comes to testimony, we always want more. And that's really the purpose of this press conference. The purpose of us releasing this draft is that we're hoping to further engage folks. I do want to make a point to say that this isn't just about maps. These lines dictate access to basic resources. They dictate the everyday occurrences of people that are living within these wards. So when people do come out to our hearings, it's incredible to see how impassioned they are, because they understand how much this is relating to their everyday life. This isn't just about an alderman. This is about being able to have ownership over your community and feel as though your voice has a say. So the more people that come out and share about their communities of interest, the more we're able to create a map that reflects those interests.
Thank you, Gracie. Are there more questions? AD, do you have another question?
Yeah, I'm wondering, a big part of this is going to be getting an alderman or a few aldermen to sign on to this. How have those discussions gone?
I am going to ask Commissioner Linton to take that one.
Yeah, I mean, we recognize that this is a larger process, and certainly, getting on board 10 alders to support the map will be something that we're considering. But at this stage for us, our focus is getting together this first draft of a map and going back to the community as informed by what the other commissioners spoke about, the testimony that we received, the submissions that we received, to make sure that we are representing the people of Chicago as accurately as possible. And once we do that, going through the process to get to this first draft, to then go back into the communities across the city to get reactions to the first draft and incorporate those reactions in ultimately a final draft. Once we have that, then we can really start to combine the enthusiasm of community members across the city of Chicago with our efforts to engage the alders in the process. But for us, the focus really has been at this stage making sure that we do our due diligence to build an accurate, complete map in front of everyone, building off of the values of transparency, honesty, fairness, and making sure that we capture, as Commissioner Covarrubias said, both the boundaries of communities of interest, but also understanding the needs and wants of communities across the city of Chicago.
Thank
Great,
you.
thank you.
Any more questions? We will keep the floor open if anyone has any questions for commissioners in regards to the map.
To go back on the other question, we had 182 testimonies that we reviewed, and over 100 of them were web submissions, and then there were 44 oral testimonies, 12 written testimonies. So 182 testimonies have been reviewed so far.
Thank you, Commissioner Liu. I will open the floor one last time for questions. If there are no questions for commissioners, I will go ahead and close this out. So this is the final call. Are there any final questions for commissioners? Alrighty, thank you all for joining us today. As stated before, you can find the commission's map on the commission's website at chicagoswards.org. The commission will continue to host public hearings in an effort to continue to gather public input and testimony from community members to inform their map as they continue to work to draft the final ward map later this month. So you guys can be sure to share that Tuesday night, tomorrow, September 20th, and Thursday night, September 24th of this week, the commission will be hosting public hearings to get public testimony, and we do invite the public to join us to inform the commission's process. Thank you all again for joining us and have a wonderful day.